The Mariners lost a series to the A's, and really the only way you can lose a series to the A's. Let's talk about it here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Mariners podcast. This is Monday, August 22nd, 2022, and thank you so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms with new episodes dropping every Monday through Friday. I am your host, Ty Gonzalez, joined as always by my co-host, Colby Patnode. We cover the Mariners over at InsideTheMariners.com for Fan Nation over on the Sports Illustrated Network. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at LO_Mariners. Follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, that's DaneGnzlz, and Colby at CPAT11, that's CPAT11. Be sure to also check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/control the zone. We post 2 additional podcasts on there every single week. Again, that is patreon.com/control the zone. And if this is your first time joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, welcome to the show. If you like what you hear, give us a follow or subscribe wherever you're listening to this. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and give this video a thumbs up. We greatly appreciate it. On the show today, we're going to tell you our thoughts on what went down in Oakland, unfortunately. If roster changes need to be made, and if so, what? And with Ty France's ongoing struggles, Colby will tell you why he cannot be viewed as one of the team's 3 best hitters heading into the 2023 season. But first, Colby, let's just get this out of the way. What the hell happened down in Oakland?
Well, some things we expected, like Cole Irvin being incapable of pitching against the Mariners.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to know, in a world that's changing as frequently as it is, we can always count on something like Cole Irvin being terrible against the Mariners. Unfortunately, that was pretty much the highlight. Saturday night, it was just sloppy. Adam Frazier looked like he couldn't be bothered to bend down and pick up a ground ball. Like he literally stayed perfectly upright and hit off his shin. Like, what's that about? And then Jake Lamb, fly ball, he should have caught it. The sun was pretty bad, I guess, is what they're going with. But again, it's kind of a shame because Gilbert was actually pitching okay up to that point. It was one of his better outings. And then obviously, Gilbert takes the line drive off the backside, and he had to leave the game early as a result. About an inning later. So just kind of chaos. And then Castillo can't field like a routine ground ball. That dude might be the most unathletic guy in Major League Baseball. There is no athleticism to Diego Castillo. And then, Sunday, just Luis Castillo just didn't have it. There's no excuse for it. Stuff was fine. It was just, 30 grade command, 35 grade control. That just fell behind a ton of counts, left everything in the middle of the plate. If he was going to throw a strike, it was going to be in the middle of the plate. Just didn't have it. And that stuff happens. It's bad timing when it's against a bad team. Oddly enough, the Mariners still had a really good chance to win that game, and they just could not get that big hit that they needed. It comes down to it. The offense was atrocious on Saturday and Sunday. Pitching was, it was fine enough on Saturday. Again, the defense is the bigger culprit there on Saturday's game, but Sunday, Castillo just wasn't very good. And yet, they have opportunities to win that game. They couldn't take advantage of a pretty mediocre Oakland A's bullpen. Just a rough weekend all the way around. I guess, good news is that Julio had a very nice week. So that's good to see. Seems like he's finally starting to get that timing back. Unfortunately, he did not get much help up and down the lineup. So it's you go from the high on Friday to just one of the worst losses you'll see on Saturday to a game on Sunday where it just felt kind of lifeless almost. It's a disappointing weekend. It's a bad weekend, and we can admit that the Mariners played poorly and that it's a bad result without, season's over. They're not a playoff team. Playoff teams don't lose series like that, which, yeah, they do. The Padres, I think, lost a series to the Nationals, this weekend. So stuff happens, but it didn't make it any easier to watch in the moment, even knowing the whole, it's baseball, stuff happens. But yeah, I would say the offense, had a 4-game stretch there was, pretty good. Got a lot of help in those 4 games, but whatever. Scored
Mhm.
runs, but then Saturday, Sunday, you see the issues with the offense. They still exist, and they're
Yeah.
going to for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and credit to an A's pitching staff that has been a little bit better as of late. Gotten some nice young arms, especially in the bullpen. The bullpen arms have been pretty solid for Oakland, surprisingly. And JP Sears has been really good since he got traded over from New York as well. So, you're going to run into some issues with that. Matchups are going to line up the way they do, and baseball is baseball, and that's just really what it is at the end of the day when it comes to the series. But it's disappointing still. Like you mentioned, outside of Julio, I mean, Eugenio Suarez had a pretty decent series. Obviously, had the big first game, had a
Mostly on
game
Friday.
time. Yeah, had a game time knock on Saturday, but that was it. But those were really the 2 guys to me that stood out. I mean, Cal Raleigh had a decent series.
Really just a decent Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
his at bats on Saturday were the worst on the team. So,
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Haggerty had a a nice
Yeah.
Sunday as
Sam
well.
Haggerty, the weapon coming
Yeah,
off the bench last night.
it'll be interesting to see like why he was scratched. I don't know if we ever really got really good info on that. So I don't know if
Mhm.
that's more of a just caution thing with an off day coming up, or if it's the fact that he could run makes me think it's maybe like a shoulder or something like
Mhm.
that. But yeah, Demo actually, I think Demo had a double right on Sunday, and did he
He
have
went 2
another
for
hit?
4.
Yeah, I was gonna
He
say I think he had a couple knocks. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're starting to use Dylan, the way he should be used, which is basically only against lefties. And
Mhm.
he had a nice game. So yeah, there are some positives in this series, and I wouldn't worry at all about Luis Castillo. It happens. So I'm not concerned about that at all. The velocity was fine. The stuff was fine. He just
Yeah.
didn't really have a good feel for it. That
It's
type of stuff
funny.
will happen.
It's funny. He performs great against the Yankees. Has a solid night against the Angels as well. But then the Athletics, the second worst team in all of baseball, it's just like, nah. I'm just, I'm not gonna be a really, really good pitcher right now. I'm just,
No, I mean,
I'm deciding to regress a little bit against this bad
right.
team.
Well, I mean, like the A's, we mentioned this on Friday. The A's are going to be they're annoyingly scrappy.
Mhm.
Um, and they're a thorn in the side of teams like the Astros, and so
Mhm.
it's not like there's no
Yeah, they
talent
swept the
there.
Astros, right?
Yeah, I think like a week later they took 2 or 3 or something like that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, the A's again, they're not good, but they're not an abject train wreck like the Los Angeles Angels, right? I'm sorry, the Donald Angels. Um, they're not that bad. All right, they're
Uh-huh.
despite a cheap ownership, they actually have good baseball people there. So
Yeah.
it's still again it's a disappointing result. It's an unacceptable result. But there's no reason to jump off the bandwagon. The ship's not sinking.
And at the end of it, Mariners still in playoff position by 2.5 games, I believe, over the
Mhm,
Orioles. They are in a 3-way tie for all of the wild card spots right now. All 3 wild card
mhm.
teams have the same exact winning percentage right now, so that's
Seattle
fun.
technically like 0.005 below, which
Oh,
is why
really? Okay,
they're in third place.
they're in
Like
third
they're in
place.
third place in the wild card because of a rounding issue. They're
Right.
essentially all 541 and a half. Seattle's like 541.4.
By the way, what happens, not to go down this rabbit hole, we're probably going to go down this
The
rabbit hole a
three-way
little bit
tie
right now.
scenario.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like the Mariners have the tiebreaker over the Jays, but they don't have a tiebreaker over the Rays. So what happens in that situation?
Well, if the Jays have the tiebreaker over the Rays, then it gets a
Ah.
little tricky. If they don't, then it's just okay. Rays have the tiebreaker over the Jays and the
Mhm,
Mariners, so they're the one, and then the Mariners have the tiebreaker over the
mhm,
Jays, so they're the two, so the Jays would be the three. That's how
mhm.
that would work.
Got you.
If each one of them like rock paper scissors type of thing, I think it goes by interdivisional record, which
Mm.
I have no idea where the Jays and you would think
Yeah.
that would favor the Mariners, but they don't have an amazing record against the Angels. Obviously, they have a bad record against the Astros, and I mean, the A's they have an okay record against, and the uh, the Rangers they've dominated for the most
Yeah.
part. So maybe they have a shot in that, but I don't know. I don't know how the Jays and the Rays have fared in the AL
Right.
East. So yeah. It's
Well,
complicated.
that's still a ways away from needing to be
40
figured
games
out,
to
if at
go.
all,
Yep.
if at all. So, yeah, let's talk about more of the immediate future though for this team. Some folks after the series calling for some roster changes. Are they necessary? Let's talk about it in just a moment. But real quick, a reminder: this episode of Locked On Mariners is brought to you by Bet Online. BetOnline has you covered all season long with more props and odds and lines than ever before. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the #1 online source for odds, lines, and games. Find reviews and news of every league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They have you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline is where the game starts. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast. Thank you again for making us your first listen of the day, just like you do here every single day. We greatly appreciate your support. So, Colby, as you mentioned, Jake Lamb didn't have a very good series. A lot of people in the Mariners in general had a very not good series. And that has caused some fans to call for some roster changes. And of course, the Mariners have Taylor Trammell down in AAA right now. They have Luis Torrens down in AAA right now. They have quite a few guys down in AAA that they could call upon if they so wish. Do you think it's time to make some changes, particularly on the offensive side of things?
I think you can. I think, in terms of like roster moves, they seem to be desperate to hold on to Carlos Santana for some reason. Veteran leadership or whatever. And I mean, I guess to his credit, I know somebody loves to send me the exit velos of Santana. Santana did have 2 of the 5 hardest exit velos in that game. They were just ground balls right at people, which is still a problem. Santana, hard hit ground balls, that's better than soft hit ground balls, but they're still ground balls, right? There's not a lot of damage there. Santana, you just watch him hit. He's toast. He's toast. He shouldn't be getting as many at bats as he is. He shouldn't be hitting 4th when he does play, especially since he's only going to play against lefties. He should not be hitting ahead of Suarez against lefties. That's ridiculous. So, yeah, you can DFA him. I don't really care. It seems like the Mariners want to keep him. Lamb is a little bit different just because he does offer some versatility, and it's weird. Lamb had a terrible game on Saturday. It's one fly ball that sun ball that he didn't catch, and that's it. You're off the team, and that seems selective. So, Casali hasn't been very good either, but you're not DFAing Casali. So I don't know, like who would you bring up to replace these guys? Trammell's the easy one. But are we just going to say Toro's ready now after playing in AAA for a week? Are we just going to say Luis Torrens is back now after playing 2 or 3 games for Tacoma? Are we going to pick Jonathan VR over Jake Lamb? Like I mean, it's definitely not going to be Jared Kelenic or Kyle Lewis. So what options do you have to make these roster moves? I don't see any. The only one I see would be Santana or I guess Lamb. I don't think it's time yet with Lamb. I think he can be useful if you actually, play him more than once a week, but we'll see. But either one of those guys for Trammell, fine. That makes sense. Other than that, I don't really see anything. It could end up being Torrens, makes a lot of sense. It could end up being that Toro's ready to go. And I guess maybe it is VR, but I think those moves we're a couple weeks away from even knowing if those make sense yet. And by that point, it's September 1st, and you're just calling up one of those guys anyway. So like I said, I think Trammell should be up with the big club. Other than that, I think that's it. And I don't know how much of a massive upgrade that's going to be. So kind of in a tough spot. This is why, again, you and I wanted them to go out and get another bat at the deadline. I'm just saying Trey Mancini would look pretty good right about now, wouldn't he? So,
but you have so many first base and DH types, Colby. You can't possibly upgrade over any of those guys.
I watched Jesse Winker play left field for like 3 or 4 times this week alone. There's your DH. Trey Mancini's a better left fielder than Jesse Winker. Don't tell me it's close. Don't tell me he's no. It's no. Jesse Winker, they should hide his glove forever. No, never. He's atrocious out there. Jesse Winker's your DH, and if Mitch Haniger needs to DH for a day, Jesse Winker gets a day off. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
You cannot allow Jesse Winker to go back out there. He made another bad play last night, and he only played 2 innings in the field, and he cost the Mariners a base. Like, what are we doing? No, Jesse Winker's DH, period. End of story. And if you want to use a DH on somebody else, then you're saying Jesse Winker's not playing that day.
Yeah. Let's maybe give him back that first base glove.
Give it a shot. Because right now you're not getting any production from first base anyways. So.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But yeah, I think Trammell's the move because at the very least you're getting better outfield defense and you're getting value on the base pass with Trammell.
He's running a lot better now.
Yeah. So he at least upgrades one thing over Lamb and one thing over Santana.
Yep.
So,
and honestly, probably the bat is better.
Yeah.
Than either of those guys. So, yeah, it's interesting. Trammell came up and his sprint speed numbers on StatCast were like below average, and we know Trammell's a good runner, so that's a little weird to see. But he was coming off of a hamstring injury. When he first got to the big leagues, and he just had another one. But I think he's stolen like 6 bags since he started his rehab assignment. Like, he's running right now in AAA, and that's a nice piece. We see how valuable guys like Dylan Moore and Sam Haggerty are off the bench late to run. Having another guy like that, another athlete, could help. And so I think, to me, your best shot right now, if you're the Mariners, is Trammell in left, Julio in center, Haniger in right, with Winker DHing. And you run that out as many days a week as you possibly can. I think that's their best bet. But again, aside from Trammell, I mean, pick Santana or Lamb. I really don't care which one you want to DFA. I would say Santana over Lamb. I know a lot of people would say Lamb over Santana. That's fine. I don't care. But aside from that, like, that's it. Like, that's the only move you can make right now. Maybe in September you can make the Trends move, and that makes a lot of sense, or Toro or VR, but that's it, because it's not Kelnick, it's not Lewis, and it can't be Trends right now. He just got there.
The only other change that I would make, or other changes that I would make, just have to do with the current 13 position players that are on the roster right now. And I'm talking about the batting order here. Ty France shouldn't be getting the second most at bats on this team right now.
No.
Plain and simple. That to me should be Mitch Haniger.
Mm-hmm.
Should be Julio Haniger, and then you figure out the rest, afterwards. Ty France shouldn't be hitting second right now. No. It's been awful. And whether that's, because of the injuries, whatever, it doesn't matter, because you're at the point now where you need results. And while I think that Ty France is a lot better than he has been as of late, you got to go with the hot hand right now.
It's a sprint right now. You're in the sprint. It's no longer a marathon. Yeah. It's a sprint. And guys who are trending down need to be treated as such. Guys who are trending up need to be treated as such. There's always some nuance in any of those decisions that get made. But, just look at last night, right? Julio, was it Julio or was it Raleigh? In the 9th inning, double. I think that was
Raleigh,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Julio up, and then you have Ty France. And Julio, to his credit, he hit a ball, should have been a base hit. Most of the times it's a base hit. Wasn't, a little bit of bad luck, fine, whatever. And then out comes Ty France, who's been probably your worst hitter, second worst hitter over the last week or so. Guess who's sitting on deck? Completely unable to impact the game. The guy who's arguably been your best hitter for the last 2 weeks. That's the problem. So when people say, oh, well, what's the difference between 2 or 3? It's only like 5 or 6 at-bats a year. There it is. There's one of them. You see how it makes a difference? So, I'm with you. The batting order should be, Julio and Mitch, or Mitch and Julio. I don't really care which order you put them in, but those two guys need to be getting the most opportunities possible to impact the game. And right now you're not allowing that to happen because you think Ty France is going to be something he hasn't been for like a month.
Yeah.
It's dumb. It's dumb. So you can't be afraid to make those changes. I don't think Scott's going to, which is annoying, but like I'm pretty sure France has been worth negative like half a win over the last month, which is significant.
Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, he's just he's not hitting at all. He's striking out more now. It's like we're seeing some really uncharacteristic things out of Ty France at the moment. And I think it would be good to just kind of, put him down the lineup a couple spots. Doesn't have to be like super significant because I don't think they would ever even consider anything super significant where he's 6 or 7 in the lineup. But like,
I think 5 should be on the table.
I think 5 should be on the table as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Julio, Mitch, Jesse, Gino, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then France. I mean, I guess you could hit France 4. That's fine. But yeah, in the month of August, Ty France is hitting 145, 203, 194.
Yeah.
That's terrible. And it even extends beyond August. Since the All-Star break, he's hitting 198, 276, 308. And yes, I get that he's been hurt and it's a wrist injury, blah, blah, blah. I understand all that. It doesn't matter. 40 games to go. You're tied for a wild card spot right now. It's go time. I don't have time for sentimentality of hitting JP Crawford third because he went, 15 for 25 last week is what I have to do. That's what I'm going to do. It's go time.
So that brings us to your stance that heading into the 2023 season, you believe the Mariners should not consider Ty France one of their 3 best hitters. They have to basically have 3 hitters that you would consider better than, like, clearly better than Ty France. Yes?
Yes. Of course, when you say something like that on Twitter, what people read is Ty France is terrible. You should DFA him immediately. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that the Ty France is probably your second best hitter, I would say, overall. Not lately, but I think you can make an argument between Mitch and Julio and France. You're right. And yet here we are. He is the second or third best hitter on this team right now, or maybe the best. The offense is wildly inconsistent. It can't be trusted on a night in, night out basis. The lineup is actually, it's pretty deep, consider in terms of like average bats. You just don't have enough impact. And when you have Ty Francis, you have a guy who's so far hasn't proven that he can hit for even average power, let alone first base power. You have a guy who is prone to slumps. You have a guy who is also prone to, injuring himself, getting hit. And Ty France isn't going to stop getting hit by pitches. This is 2 years in a row where his season has been dramatically altered because he got hit in the wrist. Right. And that's not a fluke. Right. You can say it's a fluke, but Ty France leads baseball in getting hit by pitches. This type of stuff is going to happen. And you cannot rely on this guy to be the guy who constantly comes up with the big hit time and time and time again without having some serious, safety nets installed. So here's kind of the beauty of this is that you can make an argument that heading into this offseason, Julio and Jesse Winker already are 2 of the top 3. Now, Winker hasn't had a great year, been a little better lately at the plate. I don't want to assume that Jesse's magically going to get better next year, but this year has been such an outlier. It's hard to assume he won't be. So if you want to say Winker is one of those 2, then fine, whatever. So Ty France is your 3. So what does that mean? You need to add a bat better than Ty France this winter. Great. It's interesting.
So who is a bat better than Ty France? Well, here, you finish your thought and then I'll ask you that.
Okay. I was just going to say, it's interesting. I had somebody point out to me last night, because people were quick to point out to me how dumb I am for wanting the Mariners to get better, which is interesting hill to die on. But that only 2 teams had hitters where the top 3 bats all had a higher WRC plus than Ty France. And those 2 teams are the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Houston Astros. What do the Dodgers and the Astros have in common? Are they World Series contender, like serious World Series contenders? Is anybody going to be shocked if they win the World Series this year? No. I don't know. I kind of like the Mariners to be in that position, wouldn't you? I don't understand what how dare you insist that the Mariners get better and maybe even challenge for a World Series. It's such a weird hill to die on, but whatever. Okay, fine. You want to point that out? Again, I would point out, well, good. Those are the 2 teams I want to be like. So in terms of like who's out there, this is where you have to get creative. You have to get creative. because there's not a lot of free agent options. You're not going to get Aaron Judge. So yeah, in WRC plus, little flawed. I mean, according to WRC plus, Dylan Moore is some like everyday starting player. He's like 114 or whatever. And it's like, yeah, and he's hitting a $150. You see how WRC plus isn't perfect, but in terms of bats, I think, something along the lines of, we're talking about a Trey Turner, a Xander Bogaerts, maybe a Carlos Correa type. And those guys are hard to get. So then you might have to go out to the trade market. You might have to get creative here. You might have to, it's Brandon Lau. Or maybe it's a free agent we're not talking about enough, like Brandon Nimmo, or maybe it's Michael Conforto. And if you're not going to add a guy who's definitely better than Ty France, you need to add at least one or two guys who are in Ty France's range of possible outcomes. You do not want Ty France. You don't want to rely solely on Ty France, A, staying healthy all year, and B, delivering every single time he comes to the plate. And that's kind of what your lineup is set up to be right now, because Julio right now, at least, is getting on base. Ty France is more or less an automatic out. And now what you have is Mitch Haniger and Jesse Winker, or Jesse Winker and Mitch Haniger needing to get hits to score Julio. And that's tough. You need to lengthen the lineup, but you also need more impact in the lineup. And if Jesse's not going to be, if Ty's not going to be a 25 home run guy, which again, tough to know, wrist injuries sap a lot of power. But so far, we have zero evidence to suggest that Ty France can hit 25 home runs. You need to find some thump somewhere else in the lineup too. So France is a very good hitter. He's a very good player. He definitely can help you. And there's obviously a spot for him here in the future. You just need to do better around him. And by better around him, I mean, you need better than him to hit around him. And that should help everybody. So again, I don't understand the vitriol by suggesting that, hey, it'd be really cool if the Mariners went out and got a bat better than Ty France. I thought the objective was to get better.
Well, because I think some people take that as like, oh, you want to replace Ty France? And it's not at all what you're saying.
Never said that.
That's not at all what you're saying. Yeah.
I'm saying make Ty France your fourth best hitter.
Yeah.
If Ty France is your fourth best hitter, probably have a top 10 offense in baseball. And it probably carries a lot more predictability than the current one you're running. That's what adding one bat or two bats better than Ty France this offseason does for you. I don't know. Again, I'm going to keep pushing for the Mariners to get better. If you guys want to stick with the same guys every year and hope they just magically get better themselves, I'm not going to tell you not to, but I like my plan better. So see you on Twitter.
On that note, that's going to do it for our show then. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast. For Colby Patnode, I'm Ty Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow Inside the Mariners at Inside Mariners. You can follow me at Dane Gonzalez, CaneGNZLZ, and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. You can also find all that stuff in the description of this episode. And thank you again for making us your first listen of the day. Now make your second listen the Locked On MLB podcast. MLB expert Paul Francis Sullivan brings humor, passion, and unique perspective on every team and the biggest stories around the league. Follow the #1 daily league-wide podcast, Locked On MLB, on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, just like us. And with that, have yourself a beautiful baseball day. We'll see you tomorrow. Peace.